Oilers forward Connor McDavid caused a little bit of a stir on social media because of his Halloween outfit. McDavid dressed up as United States President Donald Trump while his girlfriend dressed up as First Lady Melania Trump. The couple actually did a pretty good job with the costumes. Clearly, it was meant to be a gag, as we've come to expect though. People all over social media had an opinion on McDavid's costume selection. So many hockey fans complain about players not being themselves or not showing more personality through social media platforms or during interviews. But a lot of those same people will criticize McDavid for a gag like this. Unfortunately, you can't have it both ways. You can't want players to show more personality but then complain when they do it in a way you don't approve of. Even those who prefer their favorite hockey players stay quiet don't have to be offended by this. It's a gag, a joke, a costume. The 20-year-old and his girlfriend are having innocent fun. Is all the anger towards them really justified? It's a Halloween costume, so probably not. The only reason this story turned political is because a small group of people made it that way. Come on, you have to admit that they pulled it off pretty well. Joey Alfieri is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at Joey Alfieri. After an absolutely maddening run of injuries before the season even began, there was some concern that the St. Louis Blues would miss the playoffs. Instead, they're in a position to run away with the Central Division with November about to begin. You can forgive the Blues for setting their sights higher than that, too, even after all those false alarms about this being the year, to some extent stretching back to the days of Al MacInnis' booming shot and Steve Yzerman-administered heartbreak. Maybe it's fitting, then, that the Blues enter Tuesday tied with Yzerman's Tampa Bay Lightning with matching 10-21 records as the top teams in the NHL and, thus, the top seeds in their conferences. They ended October with quite the win, too, topping the Pacific-leading, ALCS-resurgent Los Angeles Kings. Really, the Blues' successes might be more impressive than that of the Lightning and Kings. While everything seems to be going right for the Lightning after an injury-ravaged 201,617 campaign, St. Louis Black and Blue status makes its run of victories seem that much more impressive. Alex Steen missed a big chunk of October. Jay Baumester's status remains murky, and Patrick Berglund hasn't returned yet. Robbie Fabry's season-ending knee issues deprived the Blues of a fascinating young forward. Zach Sanford lost a chance to move up the ranks and prove himself. With all of that, the Blues are 10-21, but are especially hot lately, 4 wins in a row and a 601-point streak. That's pretty fantastic, and might only be an under-the-radar story because of how well-built this franchise is thanks to GM Doug Armstrong. He doesn't get many mentions among the game's brightest minds, yet Armstrong looks pretty shrewd as of this moment. Let's ponder what is going right for the Blues, and maybe also consider a few elements that make this run even more impressive. The season began with a hot power play, but they've learned to adjust as it cooled off. To start 201,718, the Blues scored a single power play goal in 5 straight games. That man advantage dominance hasn't sustained, however, as St. Louis has only generated PPGs in one of their last 8 contests, 2 for 3 against Calgary on October 25. Critics can't just dismiss the Blues as having a cushy schedule. So far, they've played 8 of 13 games on the road. They've also faced 3 back-to-back sets, so if anything their success should have tapered off. As disruptive as those injuries must have been, this is Mike Yeo's first real season running the Blues. After all, Yeo was an assistant and an interim head coach last season. This time around, Yeo had the opportunity to implement his systems and really cement his philosophies in training camp. Perhaps that makes some difference in how the Blues are approaching each game. Jaden Schwartz has been healthy, and Jaden Schwartz has been a force. With 17 points in his first 13 games, Schwartz leads St. Louis in scoring, enjoying a hotter start than star sniper Vladimir Tarasenko, 14 points. Now, with a 25% shooting rate, Schwartz is bound to slow down a bit. The Blues would settle for him regressing if he can flirt with a healthy season. Yeo says Schwartz should be in the conversation for one of the best players in the league. STL Blues, Jeremy Rutherford at J. Rutherford, October 31, 2017. Alex Pietrangelo is quietly amassing a pretty compelling Norris Trophy argument. He's already a sneaky, fantastic, all-purpose defenseman. Some enormous supporting cast members are belting our homers like Yasiel Puig. Paul Stastny is nailing his contract year so far, including 11 points in 13 contests. Brayden Schenn's been a great fit after the trade. The biggest factor is probably the goaltending, which seems to be carrying over the momentum from last season's turnaround once Yeo took over. Jake Allen continues to look like a legitimate number one guy, while Carter Hutton managed a .950 save percentage in his 3 appearances. That said, there are the red flags you'd expect from a team wildly exceeding expectations. The Allen-Hutton tandem combined for the best save percentage in the NHL, and that .9475 mark at even strength will slip even if they're outstanding all season. Other stats over at Natural Stat Trick look fishy, with their third best PDO signaling that the party might stop or at least slow down. Of course, the Blues can sidestep some of the plummeting one might expect from the rigors of the season by getting back some key players. They'll likely face challenges in their schedule, in the standings, and on the scoreboard to pair with injury headaches, as just about every NHL team hits cold streaks. They still deserve credit for a strong October, all things considered, and the reward is more than just pride. St. Louis currently leads the Central Division by 7 points. Not bad for a team that seemed like an ailing afterthought heading into the season. James O'Brien is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at CycleLikesEdens. To some, there is no topping Connor McDavid's internet-disrupting turn as U.S. President Donald Trump this Halloween. Check out this post for the fallout on all of that. Then again, that might come down to taste how much you weigh in timely references, as NHL players and teams have really gone all in on Halloween this year. In fact, there's little chance that this post will cover every fake blood-crusted costume and zany bit, so feel free to share more in the comments or via Twitter. Also realize not every Halloween dream was realized. Ask Mitch Marner. As you might expect, PK Subban came up with a clutch costume, and maybe a little nightmare fuel. Just a lot to unpack here, dude. What Subban's teammate Roman Josi went pretty generic with a zombie riff but made up the difference with how elaborate it got. Jack-o'-lantern. A post shared by Roman Josi at Rossi90 on October 30, 2017 at 4:39 p.m. PDT. The instinct was to make fun of Eric Gudbranson for such an outdated costume as Austin Powers, but the follow-through is inspiration for anyone who wants to dust off an aging reference. Oh behave, nerdface. A post shared by Eric Gudbranson at Guddy44 on October 29, 2017 at 1:12 p.m. PDT. Then again, Eric Greba went for a kiss beam, so maybe there are a lot of old souls in the NHL aside or hairy chests making a comeback. Hi, Henrik Lundqvist might be off to a tough start, but at least he provides some comic relief. There's King Henrik, and then there's his teammate Kevin Shattenkirk, who embraced a love of Game of Thrones as going with the Night King. Chris Letang also got into the gut spirit. This is probably a good opportunity to remind you that hockey players have the sort of time and resources many of us lack when it comes to knocking Halloween out of the park. Not sure what to say. Vladimir Tarasenko. Not sure what to say. Most Marc-Andre Fleury costume possible arguably. Nazem Kadri reminds us of an artist on the ice sometimes, so Bob Ross is a good fit. Well, assume Maple Leafs teammate Matt Martin took a day off from looking like Brad Pitt. Finally, Patrick Lane haunts our dreams, instead of mainly scaring goalies with his shot. Jack-o'-lantern. Jack-o'-lantern. A post shared by Patrick Lane at Patrick Lane on October 21, 2017 at 9:22 p.m. PDT. Hey, at least we did a public service and provided none of the ad costumes. Don't say we never did anything for you. James O'Brien is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at CycleLikesEdens. The Minnesota Wild have been on an upward trend lately, with 3 wins in 4 games. Even so, their .432 record tells the fuller story that Bruce Boudreau's bunch haven't always been able to navigate some significant injury challenges early in 201,718. On the bright side, they're calling in a key reinforcement on Tuesday, as Nino Niederreiter has been activated from injured reserve before tonight's game against the Winnipeg Jets. The 25-year-old HASNT appeared in a game for the Wild since October 12. Even with that in mind, this must be an antsy time for El Niño, who has yet to score his first point in 201,718 after signing a 5-year, $26.25 million contract during the summer. More. Niederreiter expects the Wild to break through in the playoffs even with Charlie Coyle sidelined and Zach Parise dealing with some disturbing back problems. Niederreiter suddenly gives the Wild some balance on offense. These were their lines earlier today: Nino Niederreiter, Eric Stahl, Luke Kunin, Jason Zucker, Mikko Koivu, Michael Granlund, Marcus Foligno, Joel Erikssonek, Chris Stewart, Tyler Ennis, Matt Cullen, Daniel Winnick. Not bad, and you can imagine that group climbing to explosive with Coyle and ideally a semi-healthy Parise in the mix. Niederreiter was already showing some promise early in his Minnesota career, 3 straight 20-goal seasons, but 201,617 seemed to signal a breakthrough to another level. The Swiss-born winger generated career highs in goals 25, assists 32, and points 57, while also continuing to be a fancy stats darling with outstanding possession numbers. Maybe the Wild lack outright superstars, but players such as Niederreiter are difference makers at forward, and you can bet that he's been sorely missed. Considering the firepower on hand for the Winnipeg Jets, the Wild could really use the boost, and it wouldn't be surprising if the two teams traded blows in a fun affair. James O'Brien is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at CycleLikeSettings. The Anaheim Ducks have already been dealing with injury issues this season, and now an errant puck to the face lands Ryan Getzlaf on injured reserve. He'll be re-evaluated on Monday, according to the team, which means that Getzlaf will miss at least the next 3 games for the Ducks. They host the Maple Leafs on Wednesday, the Predators on Friday, and then face the Sharks in San Jose on Saturday. After that, they'll begin a 5-game homestand on Tuesday, November 7th. Here's that unfortunate moment from the Ducks' eventual 43 shootout win against the Carolina Hurricanes. Give the Ducks credit, they won that game, and head coach Randy Carlyle is taking a matter-of-fact approach. Randy Carlyle, on the NHL Ducks injuries, there's no feeling sorry for yourself, BC. No one in the league feels sorry for you. Anaheim Ducks at Anaheim Ducks, October 31, 2017. True, but it's understandable if the Ducks are a little frustrated. They finally got Ryan Miller into the mix on Sunday. Sami Vatanen is back to some extent, as he played on the weekend, but didn't suit up for back-to-back games. Cam Fowler's knee injury looks foreboding, and it remains to be seen when Ryan Kesler can return and how long it will take the hard-working Twoway center to approach full health. Kevin Bieksa is banged up, while Patrick Eaves deals with a legitimately frightening ailment. Speaking of frightening ailments, John Gibson seemed to avoid anything too severe. Update: Gibson is okay. Carlyle said Gibson was hit in his private parts. That explains the scream. Ducks. Mike Coppinger at Mike Coppinger, October 31, 2017. Despite these injuries, the Ducks have won 4 of their last 5 games to improve to 641. That's resilient work, yet you wonder if they'll cave under the pressure with their captain sidelined for at least the next 3 contests. James O'Brien is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at CycleLikeSettings.